Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful lunch and morning session, full morning session. This is the second presentation of the Stormwater Parks track. If you were able to join us for our first session, we had some wonderful examples and case studies, as well as a really good foundational discussion around what stormwater parks are. We are going to continue today in King and Kitsap counties with some amazing work that the folks there are doing. So I am going to present these two groups, one from Kitsap County and one from King County, on their work in stormwater parks locally in this region. So first we have Erika Harris. Erika is a planner at Puget Sound Regional Council. She has over 15 years of experience in environmental, urban, and regional planning. At PSRC, Erika works on comprehensive plan review, open space planning, advancing racial equity, Puget Sound recovery, and other issues at the intersection of planning and sustainability. She holds multiple master's degrees in urban planning, public policy, and governance from the University of Washington. We also have Michelle Perdue, Stormwater Project Manager at Kitsap County Public Works, who has over 17 years of experience in municipal stormwater management and environmental outreach, with a focus on delivering critical community outcomes like flood protection, improved surface water quality, efficient regulation of development, well-planned watersheds, and effective and empathetic customer service. Her work in Kitsap County in harmony with the Clean Water Kitsap Partnership has included nationally recognized projects and programs that reduce flooding, prevent pollution, and restore fish habitat. We also have Marta Olson. Marta is a landscape architect and capital project manager, from King County Stormwater Projects. She is the project manager for the Stormwater Park redesign of White Center Ponds. Marta is passionate about increasing human and ecological health while improving green spaces for historically underserved communities. In her free time, she loves backpacking, biking, kayaking, and otherwise enjoying the forests, mountains, and waters of the Pacific Northwest. And last, we have Matt McNair. Matt is a licensed professional civil and environmental engineer focusing on sustainable transportation and stormwater infrastructure, with a bachelor's and master's and environmental management certificate from UW. He currently serves as a water quality capital project manager at King County Stormwater Projects, advancing capital projects that improve water quality by addressing untreated stormwater runoff. He's looking forward to sharing the challenges and opportunities that are being learned through the ongoing efforts to equitably engage community members to co-design the Cemetery Pond Wetland Restoration and Stormwater Park. And with that, I will turn it over to Erika.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad not everyone went on the tour. I felt like that was unfair competition, especially on this beautiful day. So I'm just going to give a short introduction because a lot of you heard me last year at this, and I also want to provide some resources for you. So we worked on a Stormwater Parks project a couple of years ago. We really saw that Kitsap County was providing a lot of leadership in stormwater parks, and that's why I'm giving most of my time to Michelle. You know, the term stormwater parks, we think it might have started with Kitsap County Manchester Stormwater Park. But what we wanted to do with the PSRC project is find other examples of what really are functionally stormwater parks, but maybe don't have that name. So we sort of defined it after doing some research on it as they're, you know, regional stormwater management facilities that also have some kind of recreation component, whether it's, you know, trails or community gardens, you know, whatever the community needs. So besides managing stormwater and providing recreational amenities, stormwater parks can also address equity when they're added to communities that don't already have parks and open space. And of course, like that community engagement is critically important if that's really gonna be a need that's met. Also, they address tribal treaty rights because improving water quality is essential for salmon recovery. And they also can provide some additional habitat if it's in a park that doesn't already have much habitat. And you'll see example next. So I'll just give you a couple of quick examples, because there are different ways, paths to get to a stormwater park. This is an example of a park renovation. It didn't have any stormwater facility on it originally, but they saw a need to add this regional facility. It's a constructed wetland in this example. So during a major renovation, they put in this constructed wetland, and then it managed 109 acres from the surrounding community that had flooding issues. And the community is what I hear, they just love the wildlife viewing that's been added to the park. The city of Poulsbo's Stormwater Park is an example of, it's just a treatment detention pond, but they added the trails around the pond, and that became a really great community amenity, and the residents love it. The mayor was bragging to me about this facility. It's not very fancy, but it's just really a nice way to add something to stormwater management. And of course, you'll see a bunch of examples of facilities that were kind of constructed as stormwater parks from the beginning. We did put together a stormwater parks planning guidance with the help of our consultant, and I won't go through it, I don't have time, but I hope you take a look at it. It's on our website, and there are ways to address equity throughout all of these steps. So we thought that was an important piece to add in. And just one other guidance I'll mention is that we started getting questions about how can we incorporate stormwater solutions like stormwater parks into our comprehensive plans. They're getting updated this year. And so we put together this guidance on how to do that. And it includes model policies and examples and resources. That's on our website. So there's our stormwater parks page, and it's got the profiles of stormwater parks that have already been built, stormwater parks guidance, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and I'll hand it over to Michelle.
No worries. All right. Hello, everybody, and I'm going to echo the thank you for joining us rather than the beautiful Northwest sunshine out there, which I know is absolutely tempting. I'm Michelle Perdue. I'm the Senior Program Manager for Kitsap County Stormwater Division, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about stormwater, our Kitsap Stormwater Program as it relates to stormwater parks. What our philosophy was, kind of our path to get there, and a couple of examples of, kind of what to do and what not to do as far as projects go. So this was a really impactful quote for me. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. So if you're in the line of business that I'm in, working for a municipality in stormwater, this is a very resonant concept, right? It's our responsibility to come in and put things back to a more natural state than the developed state that we may find ourselves in today. One of the things that I like to talk about when I talk about stormwater parks is the fact that at their heart, they're a retrofit, right? They're a really big regional retrofit. And retrofits are really important to us because, in a lot of cases, we've got areas that were developed a long time ago. The infrastructure there doesn't treat to the standards that we know that we would treat to today. So water quality is an issue. So we get a lot of bang for our buck when we're going into a location and we're doing a retrofit to try to put back something a little bit closer to what Mother Nature was doing a long time ago before we ever settled and developed in this spot. So the way we kind of got to stormwater parks in Kitsap County, and I don't like standing back here, so I'm going to move around a little bit. Hope you don't mind that. This really represented for us a shift in view. The concept of doing stormwater parks or these multi-benefit retrofits. This happened for us in about 2009. So way back when, and that was long before me, we had a really forward-thinking Board of County Commissioners and senior management And they got together and they set out a policy that in essence said, we are no longer going to take stormwater and just try to send it away to make it, head out to our water bodies untreated as fast as humanly possible to just get rid of it and make it not a problem anymore. We're going to treat water as a resource. And part of the concept of that treating water as a resource, were these new concepts, which was, we don't want to just simply address that drainage. We want to create some solutions for sustainable growth. One of the really important concepts that came out of that policy was, we want to take locations and we don't want to just use them for one particular purpose. We want to see if we can get multiple purposes out of a particular parcel. So that led us on a totally different path than we had been before. That led us to things like embracing green stormwater infrastructure, right? It led us to things like watershed and community-based planning, about thinking about things not just in one little site or where you'd found a problem, but more at a watershed level, going back to that health of the watershed. It led us, again, to these multifunctional, multi-benefit stormwater systems. And we had a debate earlier about where that term stormwater parks came from, and somewhere along the line, that stuck for us. So fast forward a little bit to 2015. So this is our first stormwater park. You may recognize this one. How many people in the room have seen Manchester Stormwater Park, either in person or in one of these presentations? It's made it around a little ways. I will tell you, it's a successful project now. It's an award-winning project, but it wasn't always a success. So that particular park was built on some errors on our part. So, you can see what it looked like there before. Up there in that top corner, that was the parcel that we had to work with. And the story behind this park is that we had a location where we had a failing outfall. You can see what it looks like there on the bottom right. We knew we had to take care of that. We also knew that we had about 100 acres of drainage that was headed out that outfall untreated. And so we said, well, what are we going to do about that? So the first solution was that we were going to just put a pond down there up ahead of the outfall. And we were about 90% design on that particular project. And we rolled it out to the community who lives in this particular area right there with that view. What you can't see off the top of the screen is the beautiful view of the Seattle skyline that they've got. Okay, so they love this place. It's a beautiful scenic place. We were going to walk in on that lot and drop a pond right in their beautiful view of downtown. And the community said not just no, they said heck no. And the whole project came to a screeching halt. So that was step A. We came back about a year later, we regrouped, and we said, okay, well, we know that we've got to tackle this in a little bit of a different way. So we started design again, and we started to come up with alternatives, but something else happened in there. We said, we've got a really good community down here that seems to be really passionate about where they live. They know what they want. They know what they need. Let's get them involved early on. So that was the turning point for this particular project. We got substantial community involvement, early in the project, early in the design. We were able to get to a lot of things that the community was looking for in that way. And, through this successful project, it really set us up for success in the long run, because as you can see, it really set the stage for not just that project, but all of our future projects to come. It built us some community goodwill in that community, and that translated out to the rest of our communities and to our elected officials, which made it a lot easier for us for the next projects. So here's the secret sauce, and here's what made this particular iteration of this project successful where the first one wasn't. So we came into this community early in the project and sat down with them and said, okay, we've got this blank slate. We have a blank canvas. What do you want to see here? And they came back with a whole bunch of different things. And obviously it was from soup to nuts. You know, it was the simple to the absolutely sky is the limit. We had to put some parameters in there and say, no, we probably can't put in a bandstand for you. No, we can't put in a swimming pool. No, we're probably not going to put in a dog park. But there were a whole host of other things that were really great ideas that we then carried forward. We had a design charrette that involved the entire community that wanted to participate. We held multiple community meetings. And in the end, what ended up happening is if you look up in the diagram on the right-hand side there, you'll see 17 little bubbles. And those 17 little bubbles represent individual items that that community said that they really wanted to see in that area that made it into this final design. So X plus Y plus Z equaled 17 elements in our final design, and that park is well loved, I can tell you. So we like to say, if you build it, they will come, and it was true in this case. I mean, it really was. One of the things that they told us that they wanted to see was they wanted security lighting. They wanted it not to be a dark place where people could get down in there and hide because it was, you know, right there in the middle of housing and downtown. They didn't want to see vandalism. So we got lighting. They wanted to see environmental education. We have interpretive signage all through the park, including some interactive options. So there's some passive education. There's also some active education with the nearby library who uses it fairly frequently for story walks and educational programs. Obviously, we got what we needed. There's the stormwater treatment cells down there on the right-hand side. And then there's the fun I'm standing right in front of it, sorry about that. We did stormwater art out there. You'll notice that everything is kind of tied together with a water theme. That was very intentional. This is the piece that I love the most. Because we involved this community so heavily and so early in the process, they have really wrapped their arms around this particular location and adopted it. So the photo that you see down there, which is really hard to see from this distance, I'm sure, of the little tents, that's 1,000 people in that park at their Christmas tree lighting. One of the things that they asked from us was if we could install a port in the very middle of the lawn area for the plug-in for their Christmas tree, because that meant something to them. So they had 1,000 people for the Christmas tree lighting this last year, which was pretty amazing in a little location like that. We also have some art in our spiral rain garden, and I noticed that it has little Santa hats every Christmas. So someone comes out there and dresses up our salmon every Christmas with their little Santa hats. So we took that success and we said, okay, well, we don't want to really stop there. And we parlayed that into the next project. And I will get to this one, but I want to tell you that there was at least another 2 in between the one I'm about to tell you about in Manchester. We have another park in downtown Silverdale called Whispering Firs. It has a completely different flavor to it. One of the exciting pieces that I think about these stormwater parks is that they have different faces and different personalities based on where they're installed. So whether that's the site or whether that's what the community needed out of it or whether that's what we needed out of it, they all have different feels to them. So our Whispering Firs Park is not as actively used, you know, with farmers markets and Christmas tree lightings as the other one. It's a more serene kind of walking path sort of facility, a little bit different flavor. And this is one of our next ones that was very exciting. So I'm going to give a shout out right here to Erika and PSRC, because with the grant funding that we had from them, we were able to look at this next park in downtown Silverdale. So we had a lot of opportunities in this particular spot. As you can see, I'm not going to go through all of those, but we had a pretty sizable contributing basin there that we needed to treat. It's in our vulnerable priority watershed. It's our top watershed as identified in our SMAP. So it's our top priority to work in. There was little existing treatment, although there were stormwater lines that went right by. So we had adjacent utilities, which was great. But the thing that made it really special to me is that it was also adjacent to some residential neighborhoods that were disconnected from green spaces. So, you know, we knew that this was a really special spot. The county, you know, had the advantage of owning a couple of parcels right there that we were going to surplus off. And I stepped up and said, please, please, no, give those to me. I know what we can put there. We had a big need, and we know that we can do something special in this location. So the project that we did took us to our feasibility study. And I will be really, really quick because I'm running out of time here. One of the things that we did with this one, talking about interaction with the community, was that we looked at equity. And again, you know, this is a special location. It's in one of our most diverse areas in Kitsap County, so it was hitting all those marks on equity as well. So we went to concept design, again, took feedback from the community, and here's what they told us. They told us they wanted the treatment. They wanted to preserve the trees that were already out there. They wanted it to be beautiful. They wanted it to be walkable. They wanted more environmental education. And again, by getting that information up front, 10 different elements in the initial concept design. So that brings us to what's next. With that particular project, that one's now out for bid for design. We were able to secure a grant because we were ready to go and because we had a proven track record of success. We're very excited by this one. I told you about Whispering Firs. This is a shot of Whispering Firs behind me. So you can see it has a little bit different look to it. But then the other piece that really excites me a whole lot is that we also got funding to do a stormwater park feasibility study. We were really opportunistic with our previous ones. You know, we owned parcels and we knew that we had problems in areas. But with this study, we're going to go out and look and see where the next round could be. So it's going to take all of those criteria, including that equity criteria, into consideration and see where we need to prioritize the next batch. A really quick lessons learned. You know, the biggie is you really need somebody that has vision and has the ability to think about multiple things in one location, right? Get out of the mental track that you're going to install the same thing in the same place in the same way you've always done. It needs somebody that really pushes for that innovative thought process. And the second one, again, is that coordination piece. So coordinate with other plans, with county comp plans or your jurisdictional comp plans. Coordinate with your parks plans. Engage with your community. It's those connections piece that make these successful. But then last but not least, I want to say, you know, if you have anything to do with planning these or installing these, it's start right where you are, because they don't all have to be multi-million-dollar projects and these big, huge things. They can be, as Erika said earlier, they can be a regional facility that has a walking path around it. Some of our locations look just like that, but they're providing multiple purposes in one area. They're providing a community amenity. So if you have to, start small. Last but not least, be open to new possibilities. So this is a fun quote, but speaking of new possibilities and keeping your mind open, one of the things I've been keeping my mind open to is new tools like AI. So I asked AI to give me a really cool quote to wind up for you here, and they contributed this one to anonymous park enthusiast. But I thought that it was particularly appropriate. They came up with a good one, so I'm going to leave you with that one. A park that cleans water is a park that's in tune with nature, which is really what we're talking about, right? All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Marta Olson, and I'm a landscape architect and a capital project manager with the King County Stormwater Capital team. And over there, who will be joining me is Matt McNair. He is a civil engineer, also on the same team. And so we're stormwater practitioners, and we're primarily involved with retrofitting existing facilities. And so we talked a lot about, what is the definition of a stormwater park, and specifically, what are the limitations of that definition? We just heard about, the awesome Manchester Park, which is really kind of the quintessential stormwater park, I think. But what about some of these other places that already exist that maybe weren't considered stormwater parks when they were built? We got like Meadowbrook Pond in Seattle. Over on the right, that's a project that we just completed recently in Burien that's a GSI rain garden, but also has some community amenities. So, a couple more examples. There's like Tanner Springs, a wetland in downtown Portland. There's the Brightwater Center in Woodinville. This is, something that I came across when I was doing some research in LA, where they're putting kind of a traditional park on top of, cisterns, so the stormwater infrastructure is hidden, but, I think we would still consider this a stormwater park, even though maybe it doesn't look like one. So historically, I think stormwater practitioners, we've been on the far right side of this graphic, where we're dealing, in the gray infrastructure, pipes, concrete, cisterns. And then, our habitat colleagues have been working on the far left side of this in intact forests, preserving and conserving what we already have. But I think in recent years, we've both been moving closer to the middle, where there's kind of more ambiguity, but also more opportunity for partnerships. And what we've been doing at the county recently is looking at ways to partner on these multi-benefit projects. So, finding ways to meet our stormwater management goals while also working with King County Parks on, recreation improvements, and our ecological restoration colleagues on habitat improvements. So, what is the definition of a stormwater park? I mean, we don't really know, honestly, but I think that's okay. It's everybody seems to be very interested in them all of a sudden, funders and politically. So, I think we're interested too. So, fundamentally, like Erika said, this is a stormwater facility that provides public access, but there's all these other opportunities to add partnerships to those projects. And just to acknowledge, long range planning is happening. And we're, looking at to site new facilities strategically for the greatest benefit. And that's great, but that's, kind of in the years off. So what about right now? What about the projects we have in the pipeline? We're asking ourselves, how can we incorporate multi-benefit solutions into our existing capital projects? So just to give you an idea of where our projects come from, there's a lot of reasons. Health and safety and failing infrastructure are at the top. So like sinkholes, failing pipes, landslides, these are things that we have to deal with. Excessive maintenance costs, our O&M folks, coming to us and saying, you need to fix this facility and make it easier and cheaper to maintain. Fish barriers, property damage, regulatory obligations. We need to be doing a certain number of retrofits to meet our NPDES permit compliance, and then our ongoing funding commitments as well. So we're in this environment where we have inherited the planning decisions of our predecessors, which was, as a lot of people have mentioned, to take the water and get it to the low place where it's already going as fast as possible. So coincidentally, those places are also peat bogs, wetlands, and streams. And that's where we have regional facilities today. So we are really looking to find a way to take a liability. We have stormwater going into critical areas. That's not great. But turn that into an asset where we're doing multi-benefit projects on stormwater parks. So we see lots of opportunities for retrofits. King County owns lots of land, so we could definitely expand there. But acquisitions is absolutely necessary. Most of our facilities were built to pre-1990 standards, and they're just frankly not big enough. And we developed all around them, so there's kind of nowhere to go unless we buy more land. And I just want to acknowledge that the Land Conservation Initiative at King County has been extremely supportive. They are open to purchasing land for stormwater parks, purchasing land to expand our facilities. We're also working on partnerships with other agencies, putting in stormwater facilities on land that King County even does not own. Also, there's a big focus on urban green spaces. We know that urban areas have some of the highest need for stormwater control and also the highest need for improved green spaces for those communities. And then ongoing culvert replacements as well. And I'll hand it over to Matt to talk about Burien.
Thanks. Yep, my name is Matt McNair, also with King County with Marta, who helped design this project along with a lot of other partners. But just want to highlight this project on my right. On your left, you can see that this is the pre-existing conditions before retrofit, and then on the right, we have post-retrofit. So it's kind of hard to tell with the picture behind me, but this is an existing stormwater detention facility. It was built to pre-1990 standards, but it was really only used for high flow volume control. So one of the first changes or improvements we made was really looking at the conveyance. So again, this would only be loaded during high flow events. So it was pretty dry pretty often, but we changed the conveyance so low flow events would come here. And that really increased the frequency that water was loaded and the total amount of water that was treated by this asset. Another improvement that we made was just making it bigger. You can see that we made it deeper, but this also went from 1 cell to 3 cells. So now we have a sedimentation cell for pretreatment, and we have 2 bioretention cells, not just a detention cell that does volume, but multiple benefits. And also, finally, when we were doing our design and geotechnical analysis, we identified the opportunity to infiltrate. So that's another benefit for just overall stormwater management. So really just wanting to highlight that even working within existing conditions, within existing facility footprints, we can provide a lot of stormwater management benefits. And I want to highlight too that it wasn't just stormwater benefits, but also public amenities with this project. So it may not look like much, but there's not much green space or open green space in downtown Burien, but this park was already being used as a pocket park. It's kind of a green area where people will walk their dogs or blow off steam between court cases, take their lunch, and we really wanted to preserve that characteristic of this pocket park. So I think we're already off on the right direction by doing green stormwater infrastructure, because green stormwater infrastructure involves plants with phytoremediation, evapotranspiration that provides stormwater management for volume and water quality, but they can also beautify a neighborhood. So by choosing a green retrofit and not a gray retrofit, we're inherently choosing something with more multi-benefit outcomes and more public amenities. Another choice that we made with this was just the fence. So I think we've already touched on the standard practice as a chain link fence, and that might be a little offensive to people. So we wanted to have something that was more welcoming, and we decided to go with a split rail fence. So you can see that here. I feel like it's a lot more welcoming of an environment. And one of the last aspects was an educational sign that you can see here. It got a little bit cluttered because we have both English and Spanish, but one of the opportunities was providing a QR code. So if you have too much information on one sign and you want to be more inclusive, you can always send people to a website through your QR code and give them more translation services or more benefits. I just want to highlight too that this project wouldn't have been possible without a lot of interjurisdictional partnership, planning, and funding. This project is unique for King County because it's located within the city of Burien, and typically we have to work within unincorporated King County because of the funding sources we have. But with the partnerships around this project and identifying funding sources from ecology, we were able to work across multi-jurisdictional boundaries and work on really our shared highest priority retrofit projects. Another project that I want to share with you is Cemetery Pond Wetland Restoration Project. You can see here on the left, this is one of the earliest photos I could find of the area, and you can tell that it's a little bit of an existing wetland from this dark area. But even back in 1936, you can already see development encroaching around the wetland. You can see this house on the west that was kind of located outside of the wetland. But as development occurred around the wetland and even into the wetland, you can see that there's obviously impacts with increased impervious surface and increased loading to the wetland, but also building into the wetland reduced the size of that wetland. So not only are we increasing the loading to it, but we're decreasing its ability to manage that loading. You can see a little bit too, these blue areas and the green area up there with the Ds. those are existing stormwater facilities. So just highlighting again this concept that we located stormwater sites where the water was already going, but that might not be the best strategy moving forward. So obviously when you do all this development around a wetland, you can expect consequences like flooding, but also water quality issues. So you can see some examples of that here. So we really wanted to restore the wetland to bring back these ecological services for the wetland, the volume and the water quality and the habitat downstream. But again, one of the first challenges is trying to define, is this green, is this gray, or is it both? And I think the reality is that it usually is both. But being stormwater experts, we first went into this with a gray grant from Ecology for a stormwater facility. But we found that if we sited a facility in this area, it would trigger a lot of mitigation and it wouldn't really get the benefits that we want out of this. So we worked with Ecology to identify new grant sources, and the non-point source grant is a lot better for wetland restoration. And we went forward with that and we were lucky enough to get it. And there was also an opportunity that grant included new aspects of community engagement, which was a brand new thing. This is one of the first Ecology grants that really included community engagement intentionally. Another big challenge is just development and land use around the site. So we already touched on the fact that there's been development and encroachment on the wetlands, but a lot of that is already privately owned land. And if we wanted to do a public project, we had to do engagement with the community to really work through this with them. And we started with just doing this inventory on the left. You can see that green is the existing wetland. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's some orange dotted lines that are the wetland buffer. And we tried to rank how these private properties were really impacted by the existing wetland and the potential project. So those red parcels were critical for the project to move forward. You can see that it's really located where that development was, where that road into the roadway. But through long-term community engagement and through a lot of funding sources, King County actually acquired 9 properties, and that secured the project site. So you can see over here on the far left, again, there's that blue, the existing wetland, but then there's that orange, the restoration and expansion of the wetland. And that wouldn't have been possible without these acquisitions. It's pretty hard to tell too, but there's also a trail in this site. There's public parking, public education, and benches. So just acknowledging that this wasn't one funding source, this was a lot of different funding Frankenstein together. And that's only possible because we have a multi-benefit project. We have both stormwater management, but also wetland restoration, habitat restoration, and public amenities all at this site. So because of that, we had a lot more funding opportunities that we could pull together for this total acquisition. And the last benefit that I really want to share is just the public, the community. As we go through this paradigm shift from pipes to parks, just acknowledging that this is inherently a more public amenity, and we have to involve the public along every step of the way. And they've been great. They've been champions of this project since before its inception. They've been doing work at the pond since 2006. And we want to continue that work with them and really empower them to co-design and work with us. But to do that, especially during the pandemic, we had to meet people where they were, and we tried to meet them more equitably. So on the left, this is the Community Alliance to reach out and engage. They've been project champions that really started this whole ball going, but they host an annual plant sale coming up in a month. So I'll be tabling at that plant sale. And if anybody wants to come and talk about the project or get a local native plant for their mom right before Mother's Day, I'll be there. But in fostering this connection with the public, we really broke down barriers because we're not just doing emails or surveys, but we're actually building relationships and having a dialogue, not just a dictation with the public. And in addition to going to their events, we also host King County events at the site. So the last one is Bert the Salmon here on the left, and we do biannual work parties at the site. And twice a year we meet there just to pull weeds, but really to connect with each other and update on the project and build a community, not just between King County and the public, but all of our partners.
Okay, I'm going to take us home with one more project site that's in design development currently. So this is the White Center Ponds retrofit. If you don't know, White Center is an unincorporated urban area that is in between West Seattle and Burien. It's also extremely racially diverse, low income, lots of community members are immigrants and refugees. So definitely an underserved community. It's also a great example of where we directed water into existing natural resources as we developed this area. So this was historically a peat bog. It is now a 3-cell stormwater pond system that has a drainage basin of about 142 acres coming from White Center and City of Seattle. It is, I was gonna say, yeah, it is currently a stormwater park by our definition, but is a really poorly functioning one. And the reasons for that are a lot of challenges. This community has a, affordable housing crisis. There's a lot of people experiencing homelessness. So there's been lots of encampment issues over the years. Usually they are temporary encampments, but we had one very enterprising individual who built a thatch roof hut out of indigenous materials. And if you can tell, it's actually on stilts. So when the ponds flooded, he would stay dry, which is quite impressive, but really not the best thing for a water quality facility. So the area is just largely avoided by the community. It's scary, it's dark, the vegetation is so thick, it's a natural area, that you can't see what's going on. And so that just kind of creates the cycle of only negative uses happening there, drug sales, dumping, encampments, et cetera. But we have the opportunity to do something really amazing here, I think. We're going to enhance the wetland, improve the community green space by adding more trails and making it usable for the community. We're going to improve safety by freeing up some of those sight lines and adding lighting, while also improving the water quality benefits of this facility. And this is all in the service of decreased maintenance costs. This project came to us from our O&M folks because they were tired of spending about $40,000 a year on maintenance. But we can't get to that point of decreased maintenance costs without, getting the community to use this site to discourage that illicit use. And the only way we can do that is by creating a park, like a place that they actually want to come to. So I'll just end with, an acknowledgement of the trade-offs of multi-benefit projects. There's permitting constraints, regulations are not written for this kind of project. No one benefit is going to be maximized when you're, looking at multi-benefits together, but still can be a really valuable project. O&M costs, you might have to train staff differently. Public engagement is necessary when we are working with the public and we expect them to use our sites. Also, working with multiple partners is a great opportunity. It's also can be challenging and take more time. But we are hoping to do more of it. We are stormwater practitioners, we are learning in this space, and we are really looking for opportunities to partner with more people on stormwater parks. So thank you very much. I think we're out of time.